on page 2 of the foreword now. Let's review what we've done. We covered the first page, and we've learned this, that he has been directed to make an introductory statement. He's going to do that in the form of an outline of meanings, which will cover both of the problems he sees that we suffer under, not understanding concepts, and not being able to put them in the right relationship one to another. So outline of meanings will take care of both those problems, and we're to use it as a definitive guide, and his treatise will cover all reality, total reality, the infinite and the finite, the eternal and the time-space creatures, the creations, because he includes all that under the universe of universes term. So on page 2 now, he begins his treatise. Let's go back here and say that an author usually tells us what he's going to do, then he does it, and then he comes along and tells us how to use it. This author here, the Divine Counselor, has first stated his intention, which we just went over. Now he's going to fulfill that intention, and then he will come back and tell us how to use the work he just produced. So we're now in the second phase of the Divine Author's treatise on the foreword. Divine Counselor fulfills his intention. He starts out with the first thing with giving us a topic sentence. And it's only my opinion, but I like that first sentence at the top of page 2 because I think it reveals what the author is going to tell us in one sentence. Let's read it very slowly. The universe of universes presents phenomena of deity activities on diverse levels of cosmic realities, mind meanings, and spirit values. But all these ministrations, personal or otherwise, are divinely coordinated. Remember back on page 1, we heard those terms, things, meanings, and values. Here they show up again. Those three things comprise total reality. It can only be three things, meanings, and values. But we can refer to those things in many different terms, which we will do throughout the book. So here we have, in my opinion, three things in this first topic sentence. He's going to tell us the origin of things, deity. He's going to give us a history, the activities on diverse levels concerning these three things. And then he says they're all divinely coordinated. So here we have the origin, the history, and the destiny of reality. And I think that is what a divine counselor would do. Further in the book it says if we want to comprehend any reality, divine or human, we always give the origin, the history, and the destiny. That'll cover practically everything we want to know about a thing. So here he tells all things. I'll tell you the history of all things, what it's doing, and where it's going to go, how it's going to end up. Tremendous. So I will go over very succinctly this first part, which is about 15 pages. I'll tell you in about one paragraph here, if we can. By showing the unity of all things, meanings, and their values on the reality levels of the finite and absonite and absolute levels, by studying the origin and their history and their destiny, starting from the absolute I am, returning to the I am, by way of the depletion of all the absolute potentials and the completion of the Trinity of Trinities. We'll try to understand what all these terms mean one by one now, or at least as far as we can go. Let's repeat those three things. Things, meanings, and values. All reality is going to be studied on three different levels. A finite level, which is time-space, an absolute level, which is transcended time-space, but always with the relation to time and space, and the absolute level, which has no relation whatsoever to time and space. He's going to give us a study of those three things on those three levels. I guess the reason why is that the Father wants us to understand himself as he understands himself. We understood him only by things that are created on the time-space levels. That's not really God. That's created things that reflect God. but that's not what he wants us to do. So to get to the level of the absolute understanding of himself, he's devised a plan to put all time-space level things together, and then to upgrade that with another level called the absolute, where a totally different type of intellectual being is also trying to study reality. We can combine all the forces we have with all the forces they have. We could make a dent, you might say, into the absolute, because we know the absolute's already made a dent down here, or we couldn't possibly even be here. So the Trinity of Trinities is a vehicle whereby he is going to lead us into the absolute. If we can become some participants in somebody who's already there, so who's already participating in the absolute level of God, if we can get on a vehicle with them, we can, I say, go along on the coattails. We can follow them in. We can be gate crashers, if you want to call it. So already we have, on the first level, God is making created things in time and space. He's doing this by way of a plan, which we call the master architects, and the creators, which we call the master sons. What they're doing is correlating, coordinating all experience in time and space, which we definitely are doing even now as we speak, and everybody in the created universe is doing. All this is being focalized and coordinated upon one unifier, which we call the Supreme Being. So these three entities, the architects, the creators, and what they're creating, forms the first Trinity on the experiential level. The absolute first Trinity of the Trinity of Trinities is the Paradise Trinity, where we get this whole thing to begin with, where the Supreme Being originates. Paradise Trinity is the first element of the Trinity of Trinities. And of course, that's the eternal, the universal Father, eternal Son, and infinite Spirit. On our level of creation, first created level, which we call evolving, in contradistinction to the transcended level, which is eventuating. So we have two experiential levels. One is evolving, which is us. The other is eventuating, which is a transcended time-space level, which we also call the ultimate, or the absolute level. On the next level, the eventuating level, we will have another Trinity. That will be composed of the completion of the Supreme Being, which at that stage would be called God the Supreme. Also the consequence of the first experiential Trinity. Every Trinity of deity has a deity consequence. The consequence of our first experiential Trinity, which we call Trinity Ultimate, will be the ultimate being, together then with the consummator of destiny, which comes from paradise, to help out on that level, which we call the absolute level, the level of the function of the Trinity of ultimacy. That will, the completion of that Trinity should have a deity consequence, which they project in the book here will be the deity absolute. As we go on a little further in the forward, you'll see that the deity absolute is one of the great existential absolutes. So that is the great problem that we see anyhow. How can God do that? How can the total deity potential ever become an actual realized deity in time?